No longer there, Caitlin Clark is not in pain or asleep. After learning just minutes ago that the WNBA had quietly moved her out of the spotlight, fans are going bonkers. The most peculiar thing, though, is that Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull exploded in a way that nobody could have foreseen when this became public knowledge. No more remaining silent or courteous. They lacked self-control, and the league as a whole is internally adding what they revealed. There are other problems besides just one player being benched. This situation involves power, favoritism, media manipulation, and a league that was caught red-handed trying to control its stars. When Sophie and Lexie came forth with the truth, the internet went crazy. Additionally, the current state of affairs could forever change the WNBA. You had best fasten your seatbelt because this story is just getting started. At first, there was a whisper. After that, her name vanished from the starting lineup. Then, the media saw that she wasn't getting warmer, just left without making an official statement or filing an injury report. Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's biggest rookie star, abruptly left the league in what fans are calling the most enigmatic departure in the league's history. Within minutes, speculation began to spread like wildfire. Some insiders claimed that load management was the cause. Others mentioned grounds for disciplinary action. But this is the kicker. That something didn't feel right was acknowledged by the same sources. Far away, Caitlin hasn't broken any rules because this wasn't your usual benching. She hadn't missed any practice sessions. She hadn't performed poorly. In actuality, she was leading her team in points, assists, and headlines. So why would the WNBA fire the one guy who was driving ratings, packing venues, and gaining a lot of new fans on his own? Then came the leaks. Unspoken disagreements began to emerge between Clark and top league officials. League sources claim that it appears that her outspokenness was disliked by all those in positions of leadership, manner, her insistence on speaking up in post-game interviews, and her growing influence on social media. She was more than just a player now. She was a voice and a sensation, which some executives found annoying. One particularly damaging allegation claims that Caitlin accused the league of being tone-deaf and cut off from real fans when she criticized their marketing decisions in a meeting behind closed doors. After 48 hours, her minutes started to decrease. She was benched after 72 hours and is now practically gone. As though they were trying to stop her, there was a cold, quiet blackout without a press conference, media access, or a statement from her team. Momentum prior to it becoming unmanageable. They became loud, though, and fans didn't simply notice, so the WNBA was totally misguided if they thought no one would notice. The hashtag number went widespread on social media. Where are you, Caitlin? Thousands of people asked for answers. The comment sections were flooded with angry words. NBA players also expressed their thoughts, calling the conduct deceptive, shrewd, and insulting to the sport. The league's silence made it worse. However, there was now more at stake than just quiet. It has to do with maintaining silence. Everything changed when Sophie Cunningham took over momentum prior to it becoming unmanageable. They became loud, though, and fans didn't simply notice, so the WNBA was totally misguided if they thought no one would notice. The hashtag number went widespread on social media. Where are you, Caitlin? Thousands of people asked for answers. The comment sections were flooded with angry words. NBA players also expressed their thoughts, calling the conduct deceptive, shrewd, and insulting to the sport. The league's silence made it worse. However, there was now more at stake than just quiet. It has to do with maintaining silence. Everything changed when Sophie Cunningham took over. Conferences, as well as live streaming. According to her, the WNBA was influencing players' careers for political reasons. She criticized the league for putting control before progress. Additionally, she made a statement that most athletes were too afraid to make in public. Basketball prevented Clark from being seated. Immediately, her supporters banded together to help her. Hashtags gave rise to movements. Sophie's number and Free Clark's number began to trend together. Her courage started a fire that swiftly spread and was not foreseen by the league. Conferences, as well as live streaming. According to her, the WNBA was influencing players' careers for political reasons. She criticized the league for putting control before progress. Additionally, she made a statement that most athletes were too afraid to make in public. Basketball prevented Clark from being seated. Immediately, her supporters banded together to help her. Hashtags gave rise to movements. Sophie's number and Free Clark's number began to trend together. Her courage started a fire that swiftly spread and was not foreseen by the league. But suddenly, the identical question was being asked by ESPN and YouTube analysts. Lexie wasn't done yet. What on earth is going on at the WNBA behind closed doors? As a follow-up, she shared a black and white photo of herself and Caitlyn along with the word loyalty in the description. That image triggered a cascade of interpretations. Was she acting treacherously in the changing room? Was it aimed at management or coworkers? Although no one could be certain, the timing couldn't be ignored. Sources claim that Lexie has been one of the team's most vocal members at meetings ever since the turmoil started. As per one accusation that was cut, she went straight to the coaching staff and asked why the only player who was selling out was now benched. Her teammates reportedly stood at her side. Reports of a fracture in the locker room made news overnight. Lexie's implication that players from a number of teams have been discreetly discussing the issue off the record, behind closed doors, and under growing pressure to remain silent was even more shocking. It has been reported that she is helping to bring together a group of younger players who feel the league is stuck in outdated customs and who fear losing everything if they speak out. Next, there were enigmatic tweets. A message stating that, if you want to build a legacy, stop silencing the ones who created was posted by Lexie before being removed. Fans immediately took screenshots of it. It spread like wildfire on Reddit, TikTok, and fan pages. Others believe it was primarily aimed for WNBA executives. Others think media figures did it to downplay the gravity of the situation. But there was one trait that all of them shared. Lexie wasn't just exchanging responses. She was putting herself forward. Sophie and Lexie had created a front line recently. The league was also currently facing a full-scale uprising. But the fans weren't just listening to the athlete talk in quiet. They had already begun their own digital revolution. The supporters began to follow Lexie and Sophie. Instead of just conversing, they roared as soon as they started speaking. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit all went crazy. Number Stop Silencing Stars, Number Justice for Clark, and Number Free Caitlyn were among the real-time hashtag outbursts. Discussion boards for sports were overflowing. Comments full of anger flooded the WNBA postings. And because of its extensive online dissemination, the league was unable to dismiss this story in less than a day. Supporters began compiling proof, quotes, timestamps, videos, and side-by-side comparisons of the athlete's treatment. Some showed how Caitlyn was shoved during games that weren't called. Some pointed out the odd drop in her minutes despite her great performance. Referees ignored obvious fouls and were displayed in frozen frames. Fans have even accused WNBA social media platforms of reducing their coverage of Clark in recent days. Fans were furiously tearing through the internet, demanding answers, and the WNBA's official response, a cold, well-polished statement, only made matters worse. After nearly 2 days of public uproar, the WNBA eventually made a statement, but it was worse than saying nothing. A well-written message with a business vibe was distributed via their official channels. The name of Caitlyn Clark was left out. It did not acknowledge the controversy. It made no note of the growing accusations of player silence. Instead, it credited everything to a well-considered rotating decision and urged supporters to trust the process. The reaction was immediate. Fans did not purchase it. Without a doubt, players didn't buy it. Reporters didn't either. In reality, the statement's language just confirmed preconceived notions. This was a conscious effort to hide a decision that had already triggered a full-scale rebellion. The league's PR approach included ambiguous language, a lack of ownership, and a total disdain for the facts. But this was before 2004. The fans are smarter. Even social media doesn't forget. Moreover, trying to tell a story this big only makes it bigger. In reaction to the league announcement, Sophie Cunningham responded on Twitter with a subtly humorous eye-roll emoji. Tens of thousands of likes were given to a single emoji in a matter of minutes without any more remarks or a caption. It was a loud, unambiguous statement. "We're acting like this is normal now since we can see right through you," with a caption. A video of the message being read out loud was posted by Lexie Hall. Their incisive sarcasm was adored by the audience. Even experienced experts started to change. Rotational selections don't eliminate your MVP candidate arbitrarily. An ex-WNBA player posted on Twitter saying, "There's another thing going on, and it's terrible." Additionally, the statistics are unforgiving. Sales of Caitlin Clark jersey memorabilia reportedly declined overnight. Returns of tickets for games she was no longer scheduled to play increased dramatically. RIP remarks. Started posting videos of her highlights on YouTube, which is why I watched them at all. After arenas sold out for the first time in years, cities were abruptly left with empty seats. Additionally, sponsors were watching. According to leaked sources, at least 2 brand partners spoke with the league in private to request an explanation before resuming their advertising. "Clean up this mess before we leave" is corporate speak. But the WNBA doubled down. While players and fans lit up every available platform, damage control was just taking place behind the scenes. No apologies, no follow-up, no interview. But the league did not know this. 12 voices arose to take the place of one that is kept quiet. And that's exactly what started to occur after that. Because alliances were forming behind the closed doors of some locker rooms, and athletes were getting ready to strike back from inside. As the WNBA tried to use spin to repair its reputation, a much bigger fracture was growing behind the scenes. The locker rooms weren't all tense. They were falling apart. Players used to frequently laugh together before games, but these days they avoid eye contact, whisper in corners, and question who is more devoted to whom. The issue was no longer just controversial. There was radioactivity in it. The league, according to sources connected to multiple teams, was growing more and more split. Veterans versus newcomers, quiet versus disobedience, and honesty in contrast to badge loyalty. On one side were the seasoned professionals who had navigated for years. They had already left. They had already gotten up. But just when things were starting to settle down, Lexie Hull and Sophie Cunningham reappeared with a fury, so they weren't finished yet. Moreover, this time they weren't just answering. They were issuing a grave caution. Sophie and Lexie stood straight in front of the camera during a live joint interview on sports networks, not even flinching. Just the facts, without any insults or smiles. Sophie dropped the words that went viral online. "If you mistreat the player who started your league in this way, nobody is safe." It was like a kick to the stomach and was ruthless, icy, and completely honest. It was quiet in the room. The reporters were shocked. You could feel the gravity of what she had spoken when she addressed more than simply Caitlin. They were all involved. The league tried to keep every player's voice quiet. Lexie followed up without a hitch. "We've been cautioned against talking for too long. Not anymore." Boom. That was it. The line had been painted in the sand by them. The message was clear-cut. The days of being terrified are over. The unspoken guidelines of the stars follow the league. If the WNBA doesn't stand up for its players, players will stand up for each other. Clips from the interview immediately went viral. Commentators labeled it the most honest moment in league history. The crowd erupted in support. When NBA players retweeted it, they clapped their hands and used fire emojis. The video was even liked and reposted by rival WNBA players, some of whom quietly stated feelings like, "Finally," or "Say it louder." And it took the movement to a whole new level of advancement. Supporters began coming up with hashtags like "Numbers Save Women's Basketball" and "Numbers Let Them Speak" to speak out against politicians. Some even started campaigns to put pressure on sponsors to back the players or risk having their money taken away. Independent media outlets began to publish in-depth assessments of the WNBA's internal dynamics. Former athletes talked about how they were silenced, disregarded, or benched for raising their voices. Suddenly, Caitlin Clark was not the only person in the limelight. It involved the whole league. Every executive, every regulation, every tacit sanction, and every hidden threat. The spotlight was being drawn to everything. In the middle of everything were Sophie and Lexie.